Be sure to check out the Barbell Apparel 4th of July sale for 30% off site-wide. I will put the link in the description. It supports me, supports the channel. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you watching.
So just to kind of get people up to speed, you're 30 pounds lighter now than you were then. So what's going on? What have you been doing?
Yeah, so last time I came here, it was around February 20th, I want to say, or February 13th, and I was about 238 pounds, whereas now I'm about 207, 208 pounds. So I've lost 30 pounds in the last few months, and I've kind of gotten into running, and I'm still lifting. Like, the big misconception is, okay, you're not lifting heavy. And I mean, it was just Friday where I tried a 650 deadlift. Got it to my knees, almost locked it out, but couldn't quite lock it out. And so the strength is still there. You know, I'm still benching like 330 pounds, but it's obviously down a bit. It's not what it was. Back then I was deadlifting 700 pounds, benching 390. So it's taken a hit. The thing with running, I never liked running. I always hated it. I thought it was stupid. I hated cardio in general. But I think I'm at a point now where it's like the challenge of it, it's so tough for me that it's like a place I can go to kind of face my demons. And it's like I need a new challenge. My body's kind of broken down from lifting. My back still hurts a lot from time to time, my hip, whatever. I can't lift what I used to, you know, I just can't. And I'm still trying to maintain as much as I can. But it's like I used to go in my basement and face those demons with heavy weight. And now it's like I do that out there in the heat of the day running. It's like I'm facing my demons. So I need this to like escape and almost get in my head and have this time. And it's just a new challenge. So that's kind of where this has come from. That's what's led to the weight loss. Nobody likes to run above, 200 pounds. It sucks. You don't want to run. Your joints and stuff don't want you to be running at 230 pounds. The shin splints I've had for like 4 months, they're finally starting to go away. So it's just not practical at that weight. But it's kind of cool because running also ties into health. So it's like I'm knocking out two birds with one stone where I have this new challenge. And I want to do some crazy stuff coming up. And then I also have the health where my health is constantly improving.
I'm more interested in the demon thing because I get that. Like when you're lifting heavy, yes, you're battling that, but you're not really doing it with 135, 2 1/4. I mean, it's the top sets where you go to that place. And how's that work when you're running? Because we're talking about battling demons. That's like one big fucking punch in the face to battling demons. It's just like talking to them for an hour. I don't know how to ask what I'm trying to ask here, but I think you get what I'm saying.
I know exactly what you're saying because I've been on both sides. So it's hard to explain because I get where you're coming from, where in the basement, it was, in the basement, you got to understand, much of the time I was alone with just the music, and I would get into a Zen state of just like, I could get out all the emotions, all the things that had been building up, the frustrations, the anger, everything. It would all come to a head in the basement where I could let that out and just have time in my own head. Like I didn't have a lot of training partners. Dan would come over and deadlift once a week. Dan Paschalk of Madtown Fitness. But other than that, it was by myself. And it was a place where I could go through my entire life and literally break it down for those couple of hours and then channel that energy into the weights. Whereas now, when I'm out on the trail or whatever, I'm outside, I'm often doing it at the peak heat of day. It'll be like 1 p.m. It's hot as heck. Like, it's not like I'm going out there like, this is going to be fun. It's like, I know this is going to be tough. It's going to suck. I'm going to be, breathing heavy. It's going to be a challenge. And I've always needed a challenge in my life. So it's almost good because in the last couple of years, I felt like I didn't have like a good outlet, a good challenge. And this is something like that's really hard for me where it's new. And I just process all these thoughts, all these emotions of just like, what's going on in my life. I can break them down. And I go to places in my head that there's so many distractions on a daily basis now in our lives I can't get to. But when I'm out there, it's just me. There's no music. I don't do that. It's just me in my head to like go work through everything. Like find out who I am, where I literally go through dissect every little thing. And I'm like, this is what you're doing. This is where you're going. This is what you're doing wrong. This is what you're doing right in your life. This is what you need to change. And you get this real like therapeutic connection of just breaking down your life one by one, brick by brick. And it's just, that's what it's all about, basically.
So it's more about the processing than the aggression.
Yes.
So the aggression, that you haven't replaced with the running, unless you're doing like hill sprints or some shit.
No, there's the aggression. Like I still lift heavy. The aggression comes from the weights. When I pulled the 650 the other day, I got very aggressive. And that's part of the thing with the testosterone levels rebounding back higher now. I can feel it. Like I can get into that state where for 2 years I couldn't, where I was like, 2 years I would try to pull a heavy deadlift and I just was like, chill. Now I'm like, I can get it back. Even being off PEDs, I get like crazy, like this dark mindset. Like I'm going to freaking kill this weight. I get like genuinely pissed off, like I'm going to smash this. And it's like super intense. And I still get that with the lifting, especially deadlift primarily. But this is more of like the other side of the coin where I can just work through my battles and my struggles and get in my head. And I have that time. So that's why I don't do music.
I get it now. So it's like the in between the sets and like the accessory stuff of when you're in the basement is what you're able to replace with that. But the aggression part you still have through the weights.
Exactly.
All right. Now with your testosterone, it was coming back up slowly. Is it gone up more since the last time you were here, and where's it at now?
So I think last time I was here it was about 350, and then in April, late April, I got it checked 500. So it's come up a lot. I think now it's even higher. I feel it. Like I feel way more aggressive in the sense of like I'm gonna go get my goals. I'm gonna accomplish them. I feel more driven. I feel I can lift a lot heavier. I can maintain my strength a lot better, even with less training. I feel just way different. The drive and mental state is entirely different. So just because you got to think, like you could say 500 nanograms per deciliter. That's not that high, especially when I was used to being at 2,000 baseline.
Yeah.
But when you go from 360 or 350 to 500, it's like basically taking it up, 33%. It's a massive difference. Like you feel that. You feel way different. And now it could be 556.
I think everybody has a tipping point too. So say your tipping point is like 425 or something like that. And once you get over there, you feel normal again. Where if it's under that, it's less. Was there anything that you did more than what you were doing before we spoke last time to bring that up? Or do you think it's just more a function of time doing the things that you were doing before?
People are going to think I'm crazy. This is my theory.
Yeah.
This is my theory.
I'm all about theories.
Okay. The one major change, listen to this. So I don't even think it's time because I was off for over 2 years and it still was like 350. Mm-hmm. I got a under the sink reverse osmosis water filter. I was drinking tap water my whole life, drink tap water. And you can look online, I forget the website, where it shows all the contaminants in your local water source. Every single city has them. They're just different depending on where you live. And I've been drinking tap water my whole life. I would just refill a jug every day with tap water. And then I got that filter on, started drinking it for like 2 months. And the test levels shot way up. All my hormones improved, my thyroid function. So I think there was a lot of hormone disruptors in the water system, a lot of chemicals and stuff in the tap water that I was drinking. I think that was suppressing all my hormones.
And there's no other changes though?
Not really. That's the one I can think of. You could potentially say maybe cardiovascular exercise had something to do with it, like losing body fat, leaning down. That could be another. Maybe. Those are the only two theories.
Yeah.
Nothing else changed. So it's either partially, I think, the hormone disruptors in the water system going to that, as well as maybe leaning down, having less body fat to where your body's more functioning more effectively. Those are the two changes.
And it was in April that you had it done last, right?
Yeah, so I also weighed then like probably at least 10 pounds heavier than now.
When are you going to get pulled again?
Probably a week or two. Merrick's going to write out another panel. So.
Okay. I'm really interested to see where it will go now.
I'm feeling even better than back then. So I think it's close to upper 5, 6, which would be back to a good optimal range. So I'm very happy with it.
What about the other blood markers that you track?
Insanely good. Like, it was shocking. This is where I was like, okay, cardio, there's something to this. Because my whole life I'd been very off-put by cardio. I didn't want to do that. Because cardio and losing weight and all that, it makes you weaker. Why would I want that when I'm trying to be as strong as possible? I wanted higher blood pressure, you know, and like that's what makes you strong. So I never did it. I hated it, but I saw the changes on this panel, and it was insane. I mean, I had the lowest fasting insulin level I've like ever seen. It was 2.3, which is like your insulin sensitivity is stupid at that point. You can't get any lower. It couldn't possibly. A1C was down to like 4.9 from 5.2. Glucose was 80 fasted. Like insulin sensitivity was crazy. My apolipoprotein B was 80-ish. I think it was 80, which now I was talking earlier with Sheena, and like LDL and HDL, they say is kind of obsolete. They say that does not accurately predict your heart disease risk and all that. It's apolipoprotein B. That's what you got to get checked. That's the most important cardiovascular metric, biomarker for your chance of heart disease and heart attack. And that was really good. And I'm trying to think, C-reactive protein barely registered at all. It was like 0.2. There's like no inflammation at all, no systemic inflammation. Now LDL, even if it's not what it once was thought to be, that went down like 30 points to 105, and genetically it's higher for me. Everything improved.
So there was nothing negatively that was impacted with the cardio when it was introduced?
No, you could say maybe cardiovascular exercise can lower hematocrit a little bit and that sort of thing. I don't remember the exact mechanism for that. So I've started supplementing like iron. My hematocrit was like 39.5, which is trash. I'd want it to be higher to get the max benefits of like maximizing your oxygen utilization. Mm-hmm. But I started supplementing with iron bisglycinate because it's a more absorbable form, and then a good source of vitamin C, camu to help absorb the iron further. But that was the only thing that potentially maybe took a little bit of a hit. And also those levels can read lower when you're super hydrated going into a panel. So like if you're really hydrated, you have like a liter before you go in, which you're supposed to. Your kidney functions will be better, but also your hematocrit and hemoglobin might actually be lower. Mm-hmm. So it can kind of skew that a little bit.
How did you introduce the cardio into your training? Because knowing you, there's one of two ways that happen here, and it's probably the one you just started doing it at that 2 miles a day or some shit instead of gradually building up into it. So what did you do? All
in, like 0 to 100. I mean,
what is the 100? Because the 100 isn't what you're doing now.
No, it was. So it's been 4 months now straight that I've been doing it, and I started out like a mile, and I was gassing. I was dying on the treadmill, like dying, just huffing for air. It was so slow. I felt terrible, and I just kind of built it up slowly with treadmill runs for like 2 to 2.5 months. Was like all on the treadmill.
Were you able to run the whole time when you started?
If I went slow enough. That's the key. People think, I can't. They're like, I got to stop. I'm like, if you slow down and run slower, you'll be able to run. And then you gradually build up the speed. But so I would do treadmill runs inside because I couldn't really leave the gym. And I would do them at like 5:30 in the morning. And I would just do 2-3 miles. And I would play around with the incline and all that. And then I got to where I started going outside. And I was doing hills and all sorts of crazy stuff. And like now I'm like really serious. Like I got a coach. I've made more progress in 3 weeks off my speed than I did in 3 months having a coach, because I'm actually like doing, different workouts that are specific, similar to like conjugate. It's like there's a speed day, there's a long day. So it's very similar as far as that. So I've made drastic improvements with a coach. It's been huge. But it's just, now I'm up to like 43 miles a week, Mm-hmm. Whereas back then maybe it was 15.
And where do you want to take it?
I kind of know. I don't want to let like too much, but get out of the bag. But like, I'm not gonna half marathon in Secret City, the local one in November, and I want to be really fast. Like the goal right now is speed. I'm trying to build speed.
All right.
So I'm trying to do it in an hour 40 minutes, which is under an hour 40 minutes. It's like a 7:37 pace. So for me, that's pretty freaking fast. Yeah. And then and I've done a few half marathons already that were just in training that were slower. And then next year, April, I want to do the Knoxville Marathon in like 3:15. So those are kind of the main goals. Those are speed goals. Like you have to really build your speed up with intervals and that kind of stuff. And then eventually, ultras, like for real. Mm-hmm. So it's all going that way.
So if the strength is the goal, to maintain where your strength level is and not let it fall, because growing it and with what it is, you probably don't need to be stronger, but you don't want to be weaker either.
Yeah, I don't want to be weak at all. I want to be the strongest guy out there, the biggest guy, like as far as muscle mass. Because you're not going to see guys doing this above 200 pounds too much.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to still deadlift minimum like 650, ideally 7. I'm like right there now at 650, and then bench, the absolute minimum acceptable where I wouldn't hate myself would be 315, but I want to get that closer to 350.
Yeah.
And then squat, I don't really do. I just do split squats, heavy for legs.
So how has the weight training changed since you've started doing this? I mean, how do you program it per se? Because obviously you're not block training this to be able to peak the deadlift.
Weight training is secondary to the running because I have the base with the weight training to where it's natural. I've got, 17 years of experience. It comes like that, the strength. So that's like secondary. The running's the focus because that's what I suck at. That's what I need to work on. And I'll just one day I'll like deadlift 45 minutes, do my deadlifts once a week, the heavy deads. And then another day, I'll have 3 days of bench. I'm still benching 3 days a week where I'll just like bench is it. I'll go in, I'll do my 3 days of bench. I'm done. I make it quick, get in, get out. And then I'll have days of accessory where it's like back raises, pull-ups, and split squats. And that's so like 5 days, but they're very short, quick, 45 minutes, get it done and go on your way.
Then how do you lay that out? The reason I'm asking this is because there's a lot of people out there that are trying to do what you're doing in different types of ways, maybe not to that same extreme, but they want to push both. And sometimes I think they focus too much on the strength training part and not enough on like the road work, periodization of the actual conditioning stuff. And to the point that it's almost insanity, like they're worried about everything through there. So as that base progresses over time, if you're thinking forward, if you're getting closer to a race, are your repetitions in the gym going to go higher?
Potentially. I mean, I think you have to lean into what you suck at. Like I've always lifted the heavy weights, so I suck at the running. I'm slow, so I'm leaning into that to get faster, create the speed. But that means lifting secondary. Now, if you were like a running background, you'd lean into the lifting more.
Yeah.
Because it's just do what you suck at, get better at that, and then the other one is the secondary focus. But I would say the key is to making it manageable and not have like a ridiculous schedule to where you can still get other stuff done. Is just being efficient with your sessions where you can do 5 days a week of lifting, but it's got to be quick. Get in, get out. Not long rest times, not a ton of warming up. Prioritize certain exercises. Like for me, that's bench and deadlift. And then split squats. It's like those are the priorities. I'm going to knock them out. So you have to cut back on the number of exercises, but pick the few that you are going to maintain your physique with, maintain your strength, and want to build on. Maybe 5 exercises. That's all you're going to do. And you're just going to lean into those. And then maybe do like 1 a day or 2. So it's like I've picked out bench, deadlift, split squats, back extensions, and then pull-ups. That's it. It's like those are what I do. I don't do anything else.
Got it.
And I just hammer them, and I still try to get them stronger, but it's got to be quick.
No, I guess so. You're basing it all on that strength aspect, and instead of trying to figure out which movements are going to have the better correspondence to your running.
Yeah, I don't care about that.
Okay, that's where I was getting at. So they're completely two worlds that you're not going to let the strength world fuck up the other world.
No, it's. I don't lift for my running benefits. Screw that. Like I want to be strong. Like that doesn't change. I don't care being off PEDs. I don't care about being lighter. You still want to be strong. That never goes away. We talked about that's the intensity outlet. That's where the aggression comes out. I need it. So I'm still lifting heavy, like as heavy for me at the time now. Bench isn't that impressive, but it's like 330. For me, it's still heavy. But I need that. And
have you found out, though, it's not really the number, it's how hard you have to push against it?
Yeah.
It's like the straining part that you crave, not the actual 350, but being able to push on some fucker that doesn't want to move, but you have to keep pushing.
Oh, exactly. And I think, too, that's the intensity part.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm lifting lightweight, I don't have to get jacked up. But I put 650 on the bar now. It's like I got to get in a state, and I love that state because that's the basement state. So it's still there. It's a different context, but it's still there.
Yeah.
And the thing is, who doesn't want to be, I think especially in our line, if I'm going to do this, why wouldn't I want to be the most muscular, lean, strongest guy out there? I don't want to be a weak, small runner. Like I want to be impressive. I want to be the strongest. I want to still have strength. I want to have it all. Like Nick Bear or something. Like he's very impressive physique. Like that's what I want. I don't want to be just this small, weak guy. Like no. So the lifting has to be there. I need it. But it's all based around strength. There's nothing I'm thinking about in terms of physique or in terms of enhancing my running. It's just like I'm still going to try to be as strong as possible because that's the core of who I am. That's the passion.
Well, I think that's the part that never goes away too.
No.
You know, so it's, as we spoke before, we've been around meatheads our entire life, and there's a certain thing that happens, you know, if you're like 5 feet away from the lift that you're getting ready to do. You know, it's like you're on this fucking stage that you crave, you know, to be on, and you think about all the time, even when you're not there. But then when you're there, everything else kind of goes away, and it's just that, and you can't replicate that.
Yeah.
What took me a long time to realize, the bar weight doesn't matter. It's the strain it's you thinking you might not be able to do it for that split second that makes you think, what the fuck did I just say to myself? That, right? That thing. And then those 5 yards, man, they're beautiful. You know, then that goes away. I don't know where you replace. That's why I was asking with the running earlier, like, how do you replace that? You know, you don't.
No.
You just keep it in.
It gives me goosebumps to think about because it's even like, and this is what I didn't have for like 2 years when I came off PEDs. This element of it was gone. That's what screwed with me because I couldn't get that aggression. I couldn't get that feeling. Like my levels were so jacked up and low where I was like, I can't get this feeling. Now it's back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've missed this. But it's like you can put on that trigger song, that one song where you're just like, I know I'm going to freaking lose my mind when this comes on, because it's like that pretext, that build-up where I flip that song on and I'm about to hit that heavy deadlift, and it just puts me in the state where I get this crazy aggressive feeling and just literally that attacking the bar. Like, I love it. I still get that, and it's like that's what it's all about. So you never replace that. Heck no. It's a different thing. It's like a torture fest of running's like a torture fest of like, I'm gonna dig through my emotions, and I'm gonna dig through my problems, and I'm gonna dig through my mind, and I'm gonna dissect them. Lifting's like this aggressive outlet of like that primal need to get the intensity and aggression out.
Yeah.
That's the difference. They're just different.
No, I get it. I guess it's like it would be like the accessory training in gym by yourself. You know, training partners disrupt that. But if you're just in there training by yourself and you got to do fucking lat pull downs and all this other kind of bullshit, you know, the stuff you really don't care to do, but you just do it. You know, it's that piece, I guess, is what you're looking at. Non-disruptive bullshit to be able to just, I get it. No, I get it.
That's why you can't. Yeah, it's. I mean, that's the part I like about it, where I'm like, it's therapeutic in that sense. It sucks the whole time you're doing it. Like, you're like, man, this is hard. That is true, but it's the therapy aspect of it where I can go into my mind and figure out life, work through it. That's what I like. And it's a challenge. It's hard as heck for me. Like, lifting almost comes easy because I've done it so long, but running is a challenge that is a very big undertaking for me. So I'm the kind of person, I always need this challenge in my life where I feel lost and empty. If I don't have some kind of challenge, I could be trying to climb Mount Everest. You know, I need something big. Otherwise, I don't feel alive. I don't feel right. And I'm not doing reckless things per se, but I need something that's a very big undertaking that I'm working towards, or I don't feel right. Like, I can't just go through the motions of life.
No, I think that's what a lot of people miss, is the shiny thing you work toward, right? So say it was a 900-pound deadlift at some point in time. You know you're not getting that in 8 weeks. It's going to take time. You know, so what you were talking about you want to do, you know that's going to take time. And that's like 12 fucking months away, which means now you got to think, how's this next month going to lay into this month and then this month? And I shouldn't do this shit now because it will definitely fuck up that next month, which means I'm not going to be able to do this in 12 months. That processing of being able to how to lay that objective out to work toward and not have it be fucking easy. Because right then if it's easy, it doesn't scare you and it doesn't motivate you to be able to move towards it. It's got to be like a stretch. I don't like the word goal because I think it's limiting. Objective, like a stretch objective. That's like, okay, fuck, you know, I don't want to do this today, but if I don't, I know this won't happen.
Exactly.
Right, and then and vice versa. Like, man, I want to keep fucking going right now, but if I do, it's gonna fuck the training up. So that may not happen. And you take that away, I think you lose some passion and drive for everything, right? Because some people don't have anything that they drive towards. Some people have too many things that they're trying to drive towards. But I think if you have one good one, everything else kind of falls into place. Like work falls into place a little bit better. Everything else kind of falls into place. And as a meathead, a former meathead, it really fell into place because they're like, okay, this 3 months, I'm going to be a dickhead. So I probably need to not focus on work that much because I'm not going to sell very much because I'm going to be a dickhead. You know, so I got to put that here, you know, so you had to prioritize. It's an extreme example, but I think you get where I'm coming from.
I mean, like a major objective, you're spot on. It dials you in every other way. If you are passionless going through life and you're just going through the motions and every day's the same and you're not working towards anything, striving, that's not going to bring out the best in you. Your life's going to be crappy. But when you're working towards a major pursuit, everything else becomes honed in, razor sharp. It's like it dials you in. You get more out of everything else. So I think everybody needs that. I don't care what it is. It could be the weights, and that's what a lot of people are going to relate to. That's what we relate to. 900-pound deadlift. It could be a crazy bench. You got to have something. Everybody at some point needs a major undertaking that they're after. Otherwise, life just becomes dull and meaningless and passionless, and everything suffers because of it.
I think a secondary thing that happens because of that is whatever that is that you're pushing for takes time. Hours per day or whatever it's going to be. And then when that takes a fairly decent chunk of time, the rest of your day has to be managed better. So now you have less idle time, right? So the more idle time that I've found, the more idle time people have, or even the more idle time that I have, you know, if I finish a project early, the worse my life gets. Because you're just sitting around fucking scrolling through shit, and then it's like, what the fuck? And now you're depressed, now you're upset, now you're mad all the time. Like, why am I mad all the time? Well, because I'm not fucking doing anything. So that you see, so when you have those things and it's like, okay, fuck, I got to run today, I got to train today, I got to get this done today, you know, then you got like 3 hours left at the very end. If you get everything done, you're not fucking off.
Idle time is destructive. That's the thing. You're 100% right. Like, I don't have idle time to screw around as much when I have all these other things going on. I've got the gym, I've got to train clients, I've got to answer all these emails, I've got to put up a video for the day, I've got to go run for an hour, I've got to lift for an hour. I have to spend time with my daughter, I have to find time in there. So like when I put her down for a nap, that's when I head out the door. That means I'm running in the peak heat of day. It sucks. But it's like, that's when I have to do it. That's when I have to get it done. And I'm okay with that. But it dials you in. You have to have everything like on this tight schedule. Lifting, you don't mess around. You're just kind of quicker, you know, rest times in between, all that sort of stuff. So I agree that idle time is where people get into trouble. That's where they fall into bad habits, whether it's like, you know, it could be drugs, drinking, whatever. It could be, you know, watching porn all day, that kind of stuff. That's when it happens, when they have too much idle time. So you're going to be more productive. Your life is going to be better when you're dialed in.
Yeah, so with those that I've seen, with that, it spreads. Idle time spreads fast, like the fucking flu. It spreads like a virus. Productive time opens very slow. It's very hard to add more productive time. So that's what people have to watch with the idle time, is if they get a little bit, it's like, thank God I got a couple hours of free time. It's good, but be careful, right? Because it's very easy for that the next time around to become 3, 4. It spreads, boom, like that. Where when what's the saying go? If you want to get something done, ask somebody who's busy as fuck, and they'll get it done, because they don't have time to fuck around. It's like, okay, yeah, I said I'm going to do this. Give it to me. Give it to me. Let me fucking do this right now. Let me get this done so I can go about my other stuff. Or somebody with too much fucking idle time is like, oh yeah, I'll just get to that later.
But idle time too, that's what makes people depressed. It's like you said, you're scrolling through everything. You have all this time to, and it's not like productive thinking. Like if I'm running, I feel like it's productive thoughts. It's like a productive dissection of my life. But when it's idle time, it's an unproductive dissecting of your time. Like I'm getting deja vu thinking about this, because it's just one of those things where it's like there's productive thought processes and unproductive. And in idle time, you're just messing around. You're passive. Your brain is almost shut off to where you're like, oh, this guy's got it better than me, or something like that. It's not this deep therapy.
It's a great point, man. It's really hard to have depressing and negative thoughts while you're active. So while you're running, while you're doing cardio, while you're training, while you're moving, it's really hard to be depressed. When you're not moving, it's a lot easier.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that. It's different. So I try to, you want to eliminate a lot of that. And, I mean, I kind of want to segue into something real quick.
Yeah.
Because this is, it's pretty recent, obviously. So, I posted about it, obviously. My dog, I had to put her down on Monday. And I kind of want to get into it just because of the life lessons I feel like I've already learned from that experience. And it kind of ties into this, to where we adopted her when she was 2 years old from the shelter, pit mix. She was the saddest dog at the shelter, basically. So my wife was, of course, like, you got to get that one. And I lived alone at the time we were dating, and the dog was for me. She's like, you got to get that one. It's the saddest one, needs the most love. And there were like 10 dogs at the shelter. 2/3 of them were pit mixes, and she was one of them. So I got her. I've had her for 6.5 years. She was 8.5. And basically, Friday she hadn't been eating as much, and I kind of attributed it to the warmer weather. I was like, okay, it's warming up outside. That's pretty normal for appetite to decrease. She was starting to get thin. I took her into the vet. They did blood work, whatever, on Friday. Wasn't going to get back till Monday. And she was still really energetic. There were no other sides. She was great, acting like herself, playing, wagging her tail, drinking all the water, but she just wasn't eating as much. And then Saturday, I got home, pulled into the driveway, and she didn't look around the corner like she normally does, barking on the balcony. And I thought, that's really weird. That's not good. And I went out there, piece of ham, held it in front of her, wouldn't touch it, turned her head. Then I knew, I'm like, something's way off. So I knew I couldn't wait till Monday for the blood work. I was like, I got to figure out what's going on right now. And this is about 8:30 at night, Saturday night. Everything's closed. I'm like, we're going to drive to Knoxville, go to the animal hospital. And, we went to the animal hospital. I was like, opened a animal vet credit line. Like, I just didn't even care. I'm like, I'll spend whatever. Let's get this done. Let's get this figured out. And they did x-rays. I was thinking maybe there's a ball in her stomach kind of lodged in. We'll get surgery, open it up. Even if it's $4,000, whatever, I'll do it. They come back. They're like, okay, she's got a very enlarged heart. So she's got a very significant heart murmur too. Could be heartworms, but I knew it wasn't that. They had already tested her for that. It wasn't that at the vet. But they did it again, to see. And nothing, so they did blood work. And the blood work they got back right away, because it's like an ER for animals. And as soon as the lady walked in, she didn't have to say anything. I knew. I knew. And I just said, let's see it, hand me it, because I know how to interpret blood work pretty well. And actually, dog blood work is almost the exact same as humans. Really strange, right? It's almost the exact same. It's the same stuff. The reference ranges are the same. So she didn't even have to tell me. I was looking at it, and I just my heart sank, dude. It just dropped into my stomach, because I knew, looking at it, that was it. Kidney failure complete, end stage, done. You're done. That's why she deteriorated so fast from Friday to Saturday. And to put this into perspective, a normal human creatinine, will be maybe 1.2. Hers was 12. Her BUN, it might get 20, 25. Hers was 150. Like complete kidneys are shot. Normal hematocrit for us, 45, you know. Hers was like 23. Platelets were like 0. Everything was shutting down. And they, you know, I just knew. I like burst into tears. I was like, this is it. It's over, you know. I knew it. And I came in that day, or going to the animal hospital, I'm like thinking like, we'll be able to fix it, whatever. I wasn't expecting that at all, as far as her like being on her deathbed. So they asked me like, do you want to put her down now or whatever? And I'm like, no, I'm not ready. I wasn't even planning for this. I'm going to take her home. Took her home for 2 nights, slept on the floor right next to her, you know, like didn't leave her side. All she would do was sleep. Wasn't really eating or drinking at that point. Just completely, you know, and she didn't seem like she was suffering, but she just wasn't. You knew it was over. But I just needed that time to have that closure and have her people around and all that. And I knew Monday I had to do it. You know, I'd take her in and put her down, and that was like one of the hardest things in my life, because it's like one of your best friends, you know. We still have another dog, but she was like my dog from the beginning. Put all that time into her, but you know, her death made me realize like we can't take stuff for granted. We take everything for granted because we're living this passive existence a lot of times. We get sucked into this idle time. We get sucked into this passive lifestyle where we're looking at sports, we're looking at social media, we're watching TV, whatever it may be. And it doesn't mean, you know, I don't like to cuss a lot, but it doesn't mean shit. It's like, what does that mean? That I don't look back when she's on her deathbed and say, dang, I'm sad I missed that game a year ago. I don't give a crap. I don't even know what happened with the sports last year. I don't know who won. I don't remember. You don't remember? I don't remember social media. I don't remember the praise I've gotten. It's like none of that. It's all obsolete. Doesn't mean anything. And at that moment, you would just give anything to have her back, or to be able to fix it. You'd hand them a blank check and you'd say, I don't care if this puts me massively in debt, or I can't, you know, do it. Do whatever you got to do to save her, but you can't. It's over. So you go from thinking, here I'm thinking she's 8.5 years old. I'm like, okay, she'll live to be 12, 15. I got 5 more years at least. That's what I kept thinking. That's what I've always thought. I'm like, I got plenty of time. She's still relatively young. Till she has 48 hours to live. That's it. It's a wrap. You go from that to that shift. And it just makes you realize you're like, you cannot take people, animals, whatever for granted. You can't take this time for granted, because it could all be snatched away in that second, just like that. And I thought about it, and I'm like, I just took her for granted. Like, she had a great life. We saved her. She would have been put down. And she had a great life, and I took good care of her. But I can't say, like, I did take her for granted. And that's like the most painful thing, to where it's like you're thinking, I got 5 more years. There's no rush. I can spend time with her tomorrow, or a year from now. I can do more of that. But then you look and you're like, that's it. And I wish I'd spent a little more time. I wish I'd take her on more walks. I wish I'd thrown the ball with her more. And it's like that, and you can relate that to your relationships with your wife or with your kid. And you're like, it's not going to be there forever. You don't know what's happening tomorrow. But you were spending time looking at the damn football game, or like looking at how that's going, or looking through your feed. And you don't care at all about that. Like, you could have taken that time and better utilized it on the people around you. And it was just like, it's one of those things where it just made me like want to dial in that much more, where I'm like, what am I freaking doing? This stuff doesn't matter at all. Like, who freaking cares? In that moment, all you care about are like, the regrets you're going to have on your deathbed are going to be, I didn't spend enough time with him. I didn't spend enough time with her. And it's like a dog is almost, to me, it's like a person. It's like a human. It's like family. So I think of it in the same level. It's the same amount of grieving. You know, I hadn't cried in at least a year or two, at least. I don't do that. And I was bawling the last couple of days. It's just like, it tore me up. And it's one of those hard lessons where it's like, take people for granted at your own risk, because it's going to come back to bite you.
It's tough. I mean, putting a dog down is tough. It's like losing a person. I mean, it's tough. And it's a wake-up call, you know, that is strong in the moment. Like for you right now, it's really strong. The trick or the challenge of that is to carry it forward. You know, so it's remembered 2 months from now, 4 months from now, a year from now, right? Because the further you get away from it, the more people can slip back into, I don't want to say old habits, you know, but I've lost a lot of people, right? So I don't want to sit here and say, because it sounds shitty, that, you know, the more people and the more things that you lose, the more you become aware of how important it is, you know, but it's true, but a lot of people like yourself are trying to give that message to a lot of people that may have suffered one loss or no loss. And I don't want to say it falls on deaf ears, because anybody that hearing that story felt it, you know, so it's not falling on deaf ears because they feel that story. The trick, though, is to always remember it, because as soon as you begin to forget it, it happens again. Then after a while, you're like, you know what? I don't need reminded of this shit anymore. But you're still gonna be, because it's gonna, you know, happen again. So
That's what I've seen. You know, I hadn't dealt with a lot of loss in the last few years. My grandparents passed away about 8 years ago. So for the last 8 years, there was not, you know, there were lifters around me, which always got to me. Like, obviously, when you see a fellow lifter who you've come up with pass, especially at a young age, it hits home. And what that did for me, I did channel those, every one of them. Every time there's a death in the industry, I channel it, because I say, this is why I need to take care of my health. This is why I'm doing the cardio. This is why I'm doing this stuff to change my lifestyle. That I do take it. I don't let any of them go for nothing. Like, and it's not just for my, you know, for that sake, but I try to take those messages and like really internalize it and use it for good. Because I feel like we should be more aware of our health and stuff. So, but I hadn't had to directly deal with loss. My grandparents 8 years ago, that was it. So this was like the first time, and it was that reminder that you said. Like, I couldn't have necessarily felt that without directly feeling it. I wouldn't have known, like, if someone had told me that. But now it's like this thing where you want to hang on to it. You want to hang on to it to use it to be better moving forward. That's the difference. Like, I want to not forget. I want to not take people for granted. I want to not waste my time on stuff that I'll look back on, not even think twice about. That's the take-home message. And I feel like being more aware of death is good. Like, the more aware we are of our own demise, eventually that's going to happen, the better we live our life. When we don't think about death, and we think everything's good and we're going to live forever, and we don't confront it, that's when we make mistakes. But when you're really dialed into, like, that's a distinct possibility and it's going to come for all of us, and people around us, our loved ones, are going to die, we dial in.
Yeah, I think it's